Okay, hello. So what I'm going to do is run through how I use Mmhmm, which you can see around me, to record videos. Recently completed SEO training course, 13 hours of video, and virtually no post-production, which is kind of cool, I hope. Anyway, saved me a lot of time. A lot of people have asked me, how did you do it? Can you give us a brief idea? What is Mmhmm? Why is it such a confusing brand but such a great product, etc. So this is what I'm going to do. There's some intense irony though, is that I'm recording this through Loom because I can't record myself recording myself efficiently through Mmhmm. Loom is a great alternative for screen recordings in this kind of process, but I haven't used it. I've used Mmhmm just because I've been using this software for a while and it's been pretty useful. I also get snazzy backgrounds like this. Just because it's wonderful to distract people you're trying to talk to. So let's go through it. So the process to start with is that these training videos, what I wanted to run through was essentially me talking to camera, my floating head like this, but above the content that's being there. Which makes sense. I like the talking head. I can have, I can move myself around. Let me just show you. I can just be down here. I can just be up here. I can be, a lot smaller. I can be very tiny and super big. So that in itself is kind of flexible. It means I can place myself around the content. I can be where I need to be, which I quite like. I also can very easily fade myself in and out. So I'm just using the scroll on my mouse, which is super, super useful. There are other methods you can do it. You can like turn your camera off. You can also change various other kind of settings and functionality there. But I have a lot of distinct control. I want to change backgrounds. I can. I can theme backgrounds. I can also mess about. Some of these are more useful than others. Some really aren't, but they're still kind of cool. So there's some value here just in messing about. And kind of creating sort of fun backgrounds. But actually, that isn't why I'm using it. No one believes me. I think most people think I've just got this to mess about, but I absolutely haven't. It's fun to do big hands, if it works. What's happened? Oh dear. I managed to have broken something. Ah, there we go. So it's possible to do big hands. That's my phone, heart, could do hands, do all sorts like that. But again, that's not why I've picked this. So let me show you why. So I produce everything in slide format. I have everything as a presentation because that's just habitually what I do. And I like to talk through it. Now, I've done many recordings where you're trying to do it in one take. It's kind of got a live feel, so if you mess up, it's fine. But the tricky of the one take is if you want to do 13 hours worth of video, and you get to the end of a 20-minute and you make a massive mistake and you need to backtrack, that gets really boring really, really quickly. Your options, you go back through, you can edit, you go in post-production, but again, if you're producing that much content and you are trying to edit, that's a nightmare. I mean, I did video editing, and as an undergrad, it's something I've done lots of, and I know that it's not something I want to spend an awful lot of time with. And you have two options here. You can either, get an editor or a producer, which in hindsight, sometimes I wonder whether I should have, or you can find a way around it like this. So as I said, I create my content in slide format. I export it as a PDF, and I upload it into Mmhmm. So let's go and import this presentation, shall we? There we go. There's my test slides. So that's going to be loading in there now. Now, what this does mean using as a PDF is no transitions, no animations, nothing of the sort. And you should feel absolutely invigorated by that, because that kind of stuff is really poor for me in presentations. I really don't like it. I don't really feel it makes things any more or less interactive, and it gives you more stuff to go wrong. So if you like this, or you disagree with me fundamentally about the use of animations and effects in presentations, this method won't work as well for you. But let's assume you're on board. So I've just imported those slides. This has been relatively quick because I've just had 3 test slides. But as you can see, it's created a new view. They're now sitting awkwardly behind me. There you go. And the first thing we need to do is sort that out. So pretty easily. Let's firstly make me a little smaller, and let's offset me. So I'm down here. Hello, I'm mirrored. I always forget I'm mirrored, but there I am. And we can, with the slides, we can do a couple of things, really. I mean, I can, resize and pretend I'm on the blackboard, which could be kind of cool. I mean, it won't be. It'll be horrendous to do any teaching in front of that because you've got these critters and their hijinks. But what I will usually do is let's just size this up fully. So now everything that you can see is me and my slides and not the distracting background. That's only one part of things. What you can do is you can then click and scroll through different slides. So firstly, that's pretty simple. I can do this, I can talk, I can move it along, and also I can see everything that's there as well, which means that, if I find that I've, again, 13 hours worth of video, I haven't practiced every single one of those sessions off by heart. I don't know them all word for word. So actually being able to see what's coming up just helps me sort of tee up. It knows what I need to go into, and your experience will help that. But that's not the key. That's not what I think is really super special about this. Let's do a recording first, and let's see. I'll show you what happens. So let's hit the big red record button, kind of evident. Now we're recording. I'm talking over this particular slide. Make sense? Okay, finished talking about this slide. Let's go on slide 2. So now I'm on to slide 2. I'm imparting some amazing pearls of wisdom. You're all very engaged. It's amazing. I go into slide 3 and I mess it up somehow. I usually always do. Actually, where I'm most likely to make mistakes in any presentation is within the first 2 or 3 slides. Then I forget I'm giving a presentation. I just kind of talk. So I'm happy, but that's super annoying. Super annoying if you're at slide 3. It's even worse if you're at slide 23 or 43 or, heaven forbid, 103. So we have a problem there. Let's say I've messed up. Let's stop the recording. Now what you can see, you hopefully can see, it's loading, there we go, is that underneath each of the slides down here, you've got some timestamps, which is kind of interesting. Well, let's open slide 2, double click on it. We actually have the take recorded. We have 9 seconds of me talking. On slide 2. So now there's me talking away about being on slide 2. Now, what's really super interesting and useful is that it's kind of already created scenes for me, but each scene is based on each slide. So if I want to re-record slide 3, I can just re-record slide 3. Now, what I tend to like doing to kind of soften that transition is I fade myself out. I shut up for a second. I hit record. And then I fade myself back in, and then I carry on. And that is super, super useful. And if you catch yourself mid-flow and you get it wrong, you can go back and you can redo it. Now, the challenge there is 2 things. One of the habits that I had to train myself out of really quickly was not talking over a transition. Because if you're talking over the transition and then you need to dump one of them, you might need to go back the slide before, because actually, if you're sort of mid-talking, you cut, you go to a new slide and then you fade back in. That's actually still not very good. That's only like marginally better. So I would get to myself to the point where I'd go, right, and I'm getting to the end of this slide, and then I'm going to talk about the next one. And it takes a little bit of practice and getting used to, but if you can do it seamlessly enough, it's entirely possible to redo a section of slides without any need for editing. Now I've completed that process. Let's say I've done my magnum opus. Click export, export it to whatever resolution, remove the bumpers, click save. There you go. Output that video. So that is really useful. And I was really happy with that process. Now the other thing that I also did as part of this course is made sure that it all has subtitles. And making subtitles is really tough. Because it just sucks typing it out. It's really important because who am I to exclude people who need the subtitles in order to consume this content? I want it to be as accessible as I possibly can be, but I sure as heck don't have time to do it all. So I used a script for this. So the script is used really heavily by podcasters and video editors, and it's really brilliant and intuitive. But what I actually did, let's just create a new project. As part of this is I used Descript for one function only, and I probably criminally underused it for what it can do. But I basically loaded in the video content. Now, where did I save it to? That is a very good question, Chris. Where did you save it to? Oh, heck, that doesn't matter. Don't worry about where I saved it to. Let's just go into something else that I've already done. There we go. Let's go back. So let's pick some of my modules. So basically, you load the video in. You basically click the file. Imagine that was seamlessly done and I'd planned this better and put it in. Next thing you need to do, find the file. So this is one of the MP4s. There is a transcribe button. Now these all say retranscribe because I've already done it. But you'd click transcribe. And then what it would do is, well, pretty much as is. I clicked transcribe, I clicked create composition, and what it then did was this. Let me just expand this a bit more, and you can see that it created and automatically generated transcript from my voice, from what I was saying. Now that's super useful. If there were two speakers, it would dynamically understand the different speakers. It also has functionality like, for example, it can see where the ums and ahs, and it can cut some of that stuff out, which isn't amazing because it's not the best process ever. But this is, broadly speaking, even with my accent, makes for pretty good subtitles. And the best thing is you click share, you click export, subtitles, you can export it as an SRT file. That has all of the timestamps that should work brilliantly. So you've kind of taken a presentation, you've spoken over it with scenes, you've been able to re-edit, hopefully fairly seamlessly, any mistakes or issues, and then create the subtitles for it, ready for upload. So that's my process. This piece of software is pretty awesome. I use it for all of my just video calls, my dynamic background. Their lounge looks better than my lounge, which is kind of cool. So I like this lounge. It's not mine. But for the recording, I'd be recording it in this if I could. And I've only shown you some of the features, talking over the presentation itself. If, for example, I wanted to throw to an example at the same time, well, okay, let's just add a slide that is the screen. So now, it looks like a hall of mirrors because I'm projecting the projection, but you can see that you can kind of use this. You could swipe to another desktop or go to another app, and you could start recording that too, which is really handy. I hope it's useful. I think that I've still not properly gotten into video like some people in a big way, but this process just felt slick. It helped me complete a project far quicker than I ever could have. I think it's pretty intuitive. I don't think there's any reason most people can't do it. And I think if you've got some content that you want to share with the world, you want to walk through process, and you just want to inject like a bit of personality, put yourself in the frame, kind of go between slides and demonstrative content, then this works really well. If you want to minimize on post-production and editing time, you can get a pretty high standard of video without having to spend hours on it. I could have made all of these videos so much better by putting as much, if not more time in again in the post-production and the edit, and I know that. But I think for training content, it's not always like super important that you do that. It's a good standard, it's lively. The other things I would say is, you can't see this, but I have two lights there and there that are quite bright. And I have a mic down here that you can't see because the camera's cut it out. But ensuring you have good lighting and good audio is a kind of a no-brainer for this. And you'll see I have a dynamic background. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's less good. The better lit I am and the worse lit my background is, the better the software is at picking me up. So that's kind of a key point too. But yeah, I hope you find it useful. Any questions, let me know. If you've tried this or you want to try it, I'm super happy to talk about it and see how it works for you. And if there's any features, functionality that I've missed or anything that you think would be cool, just let me know. Hope it's useful. Cheers.